Boom! And we're live. What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to the Max Van Auken podcast. Been a very busy week, a lot of traveling, a lot of seeing family, and so much sports news. NFL again right around the corner. Got the whole Zeke holdout. Does Dak Prescott, does he want to get, of course he wants to get paid, but when will Jerry Jones decide to pay him? Amari Cooper, of course, other players on the roster as well who deserve to get paid, who want to get paid. So it's all about timing. Timing is everything. When do you pay Zeke? When do you pay Dak? When do you pay Amari Cooper? Timing is everything. When you can afford to pay them, what the message it sends to the locker room if you pay Zeke. Another story came out that they may have covered. Another incident with Ezekiel Elliott. So there's just a bunch of Dallas Cowboy news. And then we also had UFC 240. Felicia Spencer, who's been on the podcast, she fought Cris Cyborg and had a hell of a fight. Absolutely hell of a fight. I thought she was going to shock the world. Cyborg won, but you could tell Felicia shocked the world. She shocked the world. Everyone thought that Cyborg was just going to run right through Felicia Spencer, and that did not happen. Felicia Spencer held her ground, took a punch, brought the fight to Cyborg, clinched her up, made it dirty, and really made a name for herself. She made a name for herself, Jungle, the gym she trains out of, and really shocked everybody. It's one of those losses that is a win. It reminded me of like a Rocky Balboa versus Apollo Creed, where Rocky, everyone just wrote her off, everyone wrote him off, and it's Apollo. He's the best boxer around, and Rocky comes in there, and he lost, but the way he fought, his valiant effort, the heart, the chin, the toughness, the grit, won the fans. I felt like he won the fight. That's what it felt like with Felicia Spencer. I knew she was capable of doing that. And just stylistically, I didn't know how Cyborg was going to bounce back after having that aura, that mystique of being invincible, how she would react to when she gets tested and when she lost. And hats off to Cris Cyborg. She's one of the greatest. She was considered the greatest female fighter of all time until Amanda Nunes blasted her, until Amanda Nunes became the champ, until Amanda Nunes went on this tear. Cris Cyborg was the one that nobody wanted to fight. So for Felicia Spencer to do what she did in her second fight in the UFC, like I said, that's like the second fight in the UFC. You're fighting arguably the greatest female fighter of all time. And if not the greatest, the second greatest female fighter of all time. In your second UFC fight. And to do what she did, I mean, I think, was it her or Seth Petrozelli, one of her coaches, former UFC fighter, made a post about Dana White immediately had a meeting with her afterwards, just congratulating her and saying big things to come. So hats off to Felicia Spencer. Can't wait to have her back on the podcast. And her future is so bright. Her future is so bright in the UFC. She proved so many people wrong, proved how she's a legitimate contender for that title shot. And there's a lot to come from it. But obviously, we have to step back. Now Cris Cyborg won. Cris Cyborg wants a rematch. Amanda Nunes is welcoming a rematch. It makes the most sense. It's the biggest women's fight to make, and it's the biggest challenge for Amanda Nunes. I mean, the question was, when I spoke to Dean Thomas about it, who does Amanda Nunes fight next? And no one really knew. Yeah, she defends the title, but who can really give her a test? And it's clearly Cyborg. So that's the fight to make, the rematch. And immediately I tweeted out, and I just said this just right away, and you can hold me to it, date stamp it, whatever you want to say. Amanda Nunes knocks out Cris Cyborg in the rematch. I'm going to say that again. Amanda Nunes knocks out Cris Cyborg in the rematch. The same thing happens. Amanda Nunes will knock out Cris Cyborg in the rematch. I just think stylistically, the way Cris Cyborg fights, the way she moves, very aggressive, definitely going forward, looking for the finish. I think it's just her. She leaves herself open, and the angles fit Amanda Nunes' style and her game perfectly. The way Amanda Nunes throws her punches, like Billy Patton said, the boxing coach at American Top Team, trains Greg Hardy, trains all these beasts. The way she throws her punches and the way she moves her head when she throws the punches is just a terrible, terrible style with Cyborg. When Cyborg throws her haymakers, it's almost like she's a little stiff. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm criticizing Cyborg, but just stylistically, when you compare the two, it's not a good fit, and that's why Amanda Nunes knocked her out in the first time, and I think she knocks her out in the second time. And I think it's the same exact result. Maybe not as quickly, but she knocks out Cris Cyborg. And again, that just adds to the legacy of Amanda Nunes as the greatest female fighter of all time. So there was a lot of UFC action. Max Holloway defeated Frankie Edgar. I want to get into some NBA talk, some AAU talk, but I really want to dive into this Max Holloway fight. So I came up with this pyramid scheme, and I classified all the top tier fighters into the pyramid, or the tiers. And John Jones is tier 1. I think he's the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Inside the octagon, you can have your opinion about him outside of the octagon. You can have your opinion about him outside of the octagon. I'm not trying to change your opinion of him or what you think about him as a person. I'm talking about him inside of the octagon is the greatest fighter that's ever lived. The second tier, I put the Khabib Nurmagomedov, 27-0. Conor McGregor, the first ever champ, and what he's done in the UFC is so underrated, on top of his impact on the game. Amanda Nunes, the greatest female fighter of all time. Those are the type of people that I put in that second tier. Max Holloway I put in the third tier. He just beat Frankie Edgar. He's beaten Aldo twice. He's beaten Ortega. He was on like a 10-fight win streak before that. Before his loss to Dustin Poirier, it was like a 10 or 11-fight win streak. And he's beating Hall of Famers. He's beating legends. To beat Aldo back-to-back, and the second time was on short notice. I think we're looking at a guy who is on the cusp of entering tier 2. He's not just a champion who's elite. He's the elite of the elite. I mean, what he does to his opponents, the way he fights, very aggressive, great chin, great stamina, great hands, great wrestling defense, great cardio, and he has the eye of the tiger. He has that heart where he will fight anybody. Doesn't matter if he's a heavyweight, middleweight, lightweight, featherweight, it does not matter. And that's something you can't teach. That's something you can't teach. And we're seeing greatness with Max Holloway. And we're all looking forward to Dustin Poirier and Khabib. I have Dustin Poirier winning by upset. We're looking forward to, if George St. Pierre comes back, who does John Jones fight next? Who does Conor McGregor fight? Jorge Masvidal's flying knee. But Max Holloway consistently is just excellent, night in and night out. And even his loss to Dustin Poirier, he moved up in weight. First ever fight at lightweight was a title fight against a heavier and more powerful Dustin Poirier. And it went 5 rounds. And it was a more than respectable performance. He was just outpowered. But he stood toe-to-toe right there, and he gave Dustin Poirier a lot of damage. So Max Holloway is one of the most underrated superstars in the UFC, who is, he's just so relatable. He's such a great father with a son, and he's very up to date with the modern culture and the NBA and Toronto and Hawaii. Max Holloway is a superstar in the UFC, and he's on the cusp of entering tier 2. And once he enters that tier 2, you can make the case that he's on the verge of being the face of the UFC. Like, that's how high I am on Max Holloway's stock. I just think he's unbelievable. He performs night in and night out. He's a very active champion, so you don't have to worry about him getting that big payday and just not fighting. He loves to fight. So you're getting a very frequent, very consistent product night in and night out who's excellent, who's not scared to take risks. So you add all that together on top of his work, is just W's, you have a superstar. And he's a very good speaker, very good with the media. He's a superstar. Max Holloway is a superstar. So yeah, UFC 240 was a huge success. Great fight card. A lot of great fights to make afterwards. I think Max Holloway, like I said, it's interesting with him because now that he defeated Frankie Edgar, there's definitely some contenders for him to fight. But does he consider moving back up to lightweight? That's one of the things Joe Rogan asked, and he said, I'll fight a heavyweight. He doesn't care. It's whatever Dana White puts in front of him. I'm interested to see what the UFC does do with Max Holloway, because it makes sense for him to defend his title. He's clearly better as a featherweight. Not that he's not good at a lightweight, but he's smaller for a lightweight than he is a featherweight. He's a big featherweight. I think Max Holloway should stay. It's one of those times where moving up and getting that super fight isn't always the best thing for your legacy, just maintaining that division and keep defeating one after another, and then eventually get that crack at the title again, maybe at lightweight. I don't think he needs to jump up there, but if Dana White presents something to him where Conor, let's just say in a hypothetical world, Dustin Poirier beats Khabib, Conor beats Dustin, then you're looking at a Holloway versus Conor McGregor 2. Because they fought back when they were young and Conor McGregor beat him. So then it's not only for a champ title, it's a rematch, 2 great guys, 2 great personalities, 2 great styles that you know will bang, it's entertaining, then I completely get it. 100% do it. Big payday, a lot of fun, great stylistic matchup for both fighters. They both will stand and bang, 100% get it. But for right now, I think Holloway should just maintain where he's at and stay there and just dominate. Just add to his legacy, add to that win column, add to the title defenses, and really cement himself as one of the greatest of all time. And I know people throw that GOAT status around all the time. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but if he maintains his groove here, his momentum, he will slowly creep into that conversation. But I want to transition to this. Something's really bothering me. So I played a lot of basketball. I played some AAU, definitely a lot of high school basketball, a lot of tournaments, a lot of leagues. And there's always that one guy in the stands who is just obnoxious, especially in AAU. AAU is a little more political, and it's about who you know sometimes, not always about who's the best. And there's a lot of people that you come across that are very aggressive, very strong. They're not going to pick you no matter what, or they will pick this guy because of this. And it's a different game in AAU. You're handpicked. You're not necessarily just trying out for a team. There's a lot of personalities, and now AAU has gotten so ginormous that it's almost more important than high school. I wouldn't say it's more important than high school, but it's right up there because a lot of college scouts go to it. A lot of former athletes or current NBA players go to it. So it's huge. It's great exposure. You get to travel across the country, play against the top competition. It's just on level with the high school basketball. And like I said, it probably could be higher depending on what tournaments you play in, what team you play for. Like the Peach Jam, all these things, Coach K goes to it. All these famous college coaches who are scouting young talent on who to recruit and try to get to commit to their college. So something happened so we have LeBron James supporting his son, LeBron James Jr. And LeBron James Jr. is a very talented basketball player. Obviously, he wants to play college basketball, expressed interest in Duke, wants to play in the NBA. There's a rumor that LeBron wants to wait for his son so he can eventually play for his son, with his son. So we know LeBron James Jr. is really invested in basketball, and he's very talented. He's not just his son with that name, he's also very talented. Now, granted, his name certainly helps get recognition, but he is very skilled, and he's putting in the work for it. And we have LeBron James. He entered the warm-up lines. Crazy dunks. By the way, 34 years old, and his head's above the rim still. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's going to have a hell of a season. And we have him warming up, doing all these flamboyant and flashy dunks. We have him on the sidelines. He lost his shoe because he was celebrating so hard when LeBron James Jr., his son, got a dunk. And Jason Whitlock comes out and says he needs to sit his ass down, like what he told his mom in 2008. And I'm hearing and I'm reading some of these things, and I know Twitter is probably the worst place you can go to read opinions, but it's just where you go to now. It's like the newspaper. And you look at, depending on who you follow, but all these NBA analysts and people, and everyone has their opinion, right? And I'm not saying everybody is against LeBron, but there's definitely a lot of people who are and think that he's stealing the shine from his son. And I'll tell you one thing. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that anybody is criticizing LeBron James. Anybody is criticizing LeBron James for supporting his son and being a good father. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. They will find anything to criticize this man with. He is not being one of those parents who are obnoxious, just yelling in the crowd and cussing at the refs and then getting kicked out or ejected in technicals. He's not the coach who's just favoring his son, and everyone's like, he just has his son on the team, so of course he's going to play him. Of course his son's going to get the last shot. No, that's not the case. He's just being on the sidelines, being supportive with his son. Yes, did he go into the warm-up lines and dunk? Yes. Yes, he did. And for people like, they wouldn't like it if I did that. You can't jump that high, for one. You're not LeBron James, for two. Three, he's not doing any harm. You see the post that LeBron James Jr.'s teammates are saying. They love it. They feel encouraged by LeBron. He's not doing anything to diminish the opponents. He's not doing anything to diminish anyone around LeBron James Jr. He's not doing anything to diminish his son's success. He's not doing any of that. There's no negative energy whatsoever. I would understand if he was getting texts. I would understand if he was yelling at the other kids. I understand if he was like just being obnoxious and all the cameras are on him instead of his son. I get it. But he's not doing any of that besides a dunk that he did in the layup lines. So because he did that, he's wrong for supporting his son. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's absurd. I can't tell you how many tournaments I've been to where you see the coaches just shooting around for fun. So should they sit their ass down for shooting around during the layup lines? I think it's just absurd that he is getting criticized for being a supportive father of his son. His son clearly doesn't mind. His team clearly doesn't mind. The opponent's team doesn't mind. I even saw a post where he went to one of the other teams and said, "I hope I'm in the league when you're in it." And like he said that to the kid. That's the utmost respect you can get from the greatest player of all time. That kid that probably made that kid's life. Wow, LeBron James came up to me and said he can't wait to play with me or play against me. That's an honor. I guarantee you his kid didn't, the parents weren't like, "Oh my God, LeBron James had the nerve to go up to our kid and say that." No. So all these people who just want these clicks or just want to just hate on LeBron James need to stop. Like, if you want to criticize LeBron James's game and he should have taken this shot in Game 6, or LeBron James is too passive, or he'll never be better than Michael Jordan, okay, I get it. I may disagree with you. I probably do disagree with you. But that's your sports take. That's your sports opinion. But to go at this man from a father perspective because he's supporting his son, I just think is absolutely ridiculous. And they're just trying to find anything they can to just find an opportunity to criticize him. I guarantee you if he was sitting down on the sidelines not saying a thing, they'd say he doesn't really seem too enthusiastic or supporting his son. So what is he supposed to do? Is he not supposed to be who he is? Is he not supposed to do what he does? I think it's absurd. And it bothered me because, like I said, if any of these people who are actually criticizing LeBron go to these AAU tournaments, they would see a lot worse than a supportive father. They would see coaches that yell. They would see fathers that yell, that are really hard on their kids. Like, they would see a lot worse than LeBron James supporting his son. And I get it. He's LeBron. There's always going to be cameras around him. That just comes with the part of being the greatest player of all time, arguably the greatest athlete of all time. If he walks down the mall, there's going to be TMZ that runs up to him. So I just want people to consider that when you criticize someone, it's not even about basketball anymore. You're criticizing him from a father perspective, and I just think that's completely out of line. So it was also media day for the Houston Rockets. Russell Westbrook, James Harden, the all-star duo, and Russell Westbrook seemed to understand that this is James Harden's team. Now, granted, it's a new start, and it possibly could work. I think they will be successful just on pure talent. I don't think they win a championship. I don't even think they go to the Western Conference Finals. But I think they'll have a successful regular season because they're both regular season players, and Mike D'Antoni's a regular season type of coach. And he said, I don't have to dominate the ball to have an impact on the game. I've never seen him dominate the game without the ball. And he's not a great shooter. He's actually not a good shooter at all. A three-point shooter. He's a good mid-range game. And we've never seen him just spot up. So, of course, it sounds great, and I'm glad he can actually acknowledge that and understand that he will be off the ball. But even if him off the ball, I just don't think it works. I don't want Russell Westbrook shooting threes. Now, if he was an elite three-point shooter, I'd say, hell yeah. But he's not an elite three-point shooter. So, do I want the worst three-point shooting guard in the league shooting threes? I don't think so. I think he can pass. A lot of his assists were because he was ball dominant. The offense ran through him. So it's just interesting. I think it's one of those, it's our first press conference. I have to say the right things. And I understand he should. I'm not criticizing him for saying it. I'm just saying if it does come to fruition and he actually does follow through with this, I still don't know if it's a great fit because he's not a great shooter. So is he going to be standing there while James Harden's pounding the ball? I just don't know if it works. But off of pure talent, it will during the regular season. We'll start to see the holes and the gaps come playoff time. And that's typically what we've done and what we've criticized both players for. Come playoff time, I think they fall apart. I think they're fatigued. I think that there's some laps and holes in their games that get exposed. And it's happened time and time after again. But we'll see. But it was Daryl Morey or Mike D'Antoni. I think it was Daryl Morey talking about load management. And he talked about they're going to find a system where they can rest both the players, where they peak in April and when playoffs start. And I know Kawhi Leonard had load management. Tim Duncan's done load management. LeBron James really did load management. And I know it's something that Adam Silver's not happy about when all the players were resting and it's on primetime videos. You don't want your product to have the best players not on the floor, especially people paying for tickets, watching it on TV. It's not good for the league. They need to shorten the NBA season. There's no reason it needs to be 82 games other than the owners just want their money. If this load management will become a bigger issue, the more players that rest, the more star players that rest. If LeBron James does it, I know it's the end of the world. Kawhi Leonard did it. And now if you have James Harden, Russell Westbrook doing it, maybe not missing games Maybe they're trying to just imply that resting one's on the court when the other isn't. But if more star players start to rest, I know this is an issue with the league, and I know it's an issue with the commissioner, Adam Silver, because he does not want his product diluted where these fans come in and they pay for their tickets and the best player's not playing that night. But these players want load management because they see Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard wouldn't have had that energy if he didn't have load management and rest during the regular season. LeBron James has done it. Tim Duncan has done it. Greg Popovich thought of it. So if they shorten the NBA season to 60 games, 62 games, whatever the case may be, now you're eliminating that. So now the players can rest. They can relax. So come that playoff time, they are peaking naturally, not necessarily just because they had a load management. So now you're getting, for one, you're getting product that has a more sense of urgency, where every game matters more. That's why the NFL is the #1 TV show on multiple networks, because every game matters. It's unpredictable. March Madness, every game matters. When you have an 82 season long season, not every game matters. A lot of people just tune in during playoff time. If you cut the season to 60 games, there's a greater sense of urgency. Load management won't be that big of an issue because it's less games, players will be healthier, and it gets right into the playoffs where games matter the most. Cutting the regular season benefits the players, the fans, the product, everybody except the owners missing out on their money. So it probably won't happen, but it should happen because load management will become an issue if more star players rest. Because Adam Silver won't like that. It will hurt the product. It will hurt the product on the major networks for fans paying to see LeBron James play and he's resting, or Kawhi Leonard, or James Harden, or Paul George. It will hurt the product. It will increase the value of the product when there's more of a reason to tune in and watch it, when they have to win that game. 60 games would do that. But the owners are greedy and they're selfish. I don't think they'll do that. But I think we're going to see an issue here because we're going to see Kawhi Leonard rest. And why wouldn't he? He won a championship. He rested. He felt better. He was starting to break down towards the end of the finals. He was getting fatigued. Imagine if he didn't have that load management. He definitely would have been fatigued. So if Paul George does it, if James Harden does it, if Russell Westbrook does it, if LeBron does it, if AD does it, if Kuzma does it, if Kyrie does it, Kevin Durant's out, this is going to be an issue. And it's going to happen fast. Fans want to see the star players pay. They paid for their tickets. That's their money. They didn't come to just see Rondo off the bench. I love Rondo, but he's not LeBron. They want to see LeBron dunk. And I would support the players for resting. This is their body. This is their livelihood. Like, they need to feel rested. They need to be healthy when we judge their legacies postseason. So I get both ends of the spectrum. And there's one solution, and that's cutting the regular season. You just have to get the owners to do it. Because the owners like the money in the pockets. They like those 20 extra games. That's money. That's cash money. Will they give that up? My answer is they won't give it up, but they should give it up. Just like the NFL should cut the preseason games. There's no reason to have 4 preseason games. I don't want Andrew Luck on the field. I don't want Tom Brady on the field. Like, I don't want these guys on the field for 4 preseason games. It's just a risk. It's an injury risk. But it's money. And then that's what runs the league. It's a business. We'll see. Okay, and you guys have some questions for me here. I'm going to transition to those. Like I said, great week of sports with UFC, with NBA. NFL's right around the corner. I can't wait to get into more NFL. Should Max Holloway enter GOAT status? I talked about this actually on the podcast. I answered your question here, but I'll reiterate. Not yet. Not yet. I think we throw around the GOAT term way too much. It's the greatest of all time. Not everybody can be the greatest of all time. Will he be in the conversation if he wins 4 more fights in a row in spectacular fashion? It's hard to not just consider it. Yeah, I think he's already the greatest featherweight of all time. If his only loss in like 15 fights is to a super fight he had at lightweight against a bigger guy, I don't count that as a big blemish on his career. Now, when you judge the greatest of all time, it's very nitpicky and what happened here and what happened here because you're comparing the elite of the elite. But I think he needs to maintain his success at featherweight. Build up his resume, build up that win column, build up how many title defenses he had. That will certainly help and boost his legacy. And then when the time is right, get that super fight. And now if he were to win 2 belts on top of being the greatest featherweight of all time, he certainly can enter the GOAT status, the GOAT conversation. But as of right now, he's not the GOAT. He's the GOAT at featherweight, the greatest of all time at featherweight, but greatest fighter of all time, I'm not putting him over GSP, John Jones, Anderson Silva, not yet. And maybe never, and that's okay. Not everyone's the GOAT. What's next for Felicia Spencer? That's a great question. I certainly think they're going to give her... You just fought Cyborg. Now, she's not going to fight Amanda Nunes next, right? We know that. Amanda Nunes is the champion, and it's going to be the rematch with Cyborg. So no matter who she fights, I don't believe they're as tough as Cyborg. I think that was the toughest second UFC fight you can have. I think she fights a very tough opponent that she will win. She will win. And it puts her right back in that mix. And I think she's already in that mix. Like I said, it's a win with a loss because she shocked the whole world. So I don't know an exact name yet, but it's going to be a top contender. But it's going to be a fight that I think she'll win. Will LeBron have a bounce-back season? And do you think this criticism is bothering him? I think LeBron James is one of the most self-aware athletes we've ever seen. He understands how he's judged, hence why I talked about load management. He's like, okay, you guys don't want to judge me on my regular season success. I'm going to take games off, and I'm going to be rested when it matters most in the playoffs. Oh, you guys only want rings. I'm going to go to Miami. I'm going to start player mobility. He understands what's at stake every year. He understands how he's perceived. He understands his brand better, like I said, better than any athlete. I think he understands the pressure he's under. I think he understands what's at stake, what he can win, which is a championship. That wasn't realistic last year. It was more about making the playoffs. This year, it's about making the playoffs. This is the first time he hasn't made the playoffs in, God, I don't even remember. I know he went to 8 straight finals. So he went to 8 straight finals. So I know at least this is the first season he's had in a long time since he didn't go to the playoffs. On top of the criticism, so hell yes, he's going to have a bounce-back season. I think he's going to prove he's still the best in the world. And I think he hears everything we've been saying. And I know he does because he's posted about it on social media. So yes, LeBron James will have a bounce-back season. And on top of that, LeBron James will be the best player. And I think he's going to prove it hands down. Hands down. Okay, let me see here. Who is your MVP next season? We talking football or are we talking NBA? I'm gonna give you both. My MVP next year for football, if I had to choose at the moment, is probably Patrick Mahomes. If I had to bet my money, and my MVP for basketball is kind of a sneaky one, Steph Curry. I think Giannis is up there. I think it's probably Giannis, Steph, or LeBron. I think LeBron's gonna have a really huge year, but it's all about storylines, right? So Anthony Davis comes there. He's probably not going to get those initial votes because Anthony Davis is there. Giannis, his second star is Chris Middleton. And no disrespect to Chris Middleton, but he's not Anthony Davis. So Giannis will be right up there after he won. He's defending his MVP. And I think his stats are going to be absurd. I think they're probably the best team in the East. Celtics are my sleeper. James Harden just got Russell Westbrook. And I think there's a little James Harden fatigue. Kevin Durant's out. Kawhi Leonard is going to a different team. Now, Rob Parker, who said on my podcast, he thinks Kawhi Leonard is going to be the MVP, but with Paul George there, again, storylines, it's not just him with Clipperland. It's not just him in Toronto. It's another star. I think it's Steph Curry. And I think, because like I said, it's all about storylines. Kevin Durant left, so it's just him. Clay's out until January, February, whenever he comes back from his torn ACL. He has Draymond. DeMarcus Cousins left. Iguodala left. He has Looney. And they got D'Angelo Russell. And D'Angelo Russell has mixed reviews depending on who you talk to. He's a talented young scorer, but a lot of people think he's a knucklehead. So he's going to get some of those votes who understand, hey, D'Angelo Russell's not going to work there. Some people think he will. A lot of people don't think he'll work there. So if he proves those people wrong, he has a successful season. It's Steph in MVP form. He can free flow. He can free flow, and he's, for once in a long time, an underdog. The Warriors were always the stacked favorite. So for once in a long time, he's an underdog. And it's all about storylines. Steph Curry's my sneaky MVP pick. He is my MVP pick for next season. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the questions. There's some more I'll get into next episode. I think I'm going to try to get another one this week. It depends. But as always, download and subscribe on any podcast platform. Rate it 5 stars. Tell a friend. Also on YouTube, Max Van Auken. Subscribe. Again, tell a friend. Thumbs up. I appreciate you guys. Keep sending your questions. You guys tell me what to talk about, and I talk about it. So like always, thank you and peace.